July 23rd, 2011, 3 in the afternoon, North London. In a quiet townhouse, a body is found. Female, 27 years old, unresponsive, no signs of life. The headlines raced around the globe. Amy Winehouse is dead. For many, it wasn't surprising, but that didn't make it any less tragic, because this wasn't just the story of a celebrity's downfall. It was the slow, invisible unraveling of a life, one that screamed for help, until the voice behind it finally went silent. And in the silence came the truth. Her body, her blood, her heart, they all had something to say. This is the story of what they revealed. The coroner's team began their examination with the usual protocol: toxicology, tissue samples, stomach contents, a methodical breakdown of a life that ended too soon. But when the results came in, the numbers were jarring. 416 milligrams of alcohol per 100 milliliters of blood. That's over 5 times the legal driving limit in the United Kingdom. In medical terms, that level is considered lethal. What happens at that concentration is terrifyingly simple. The alcohol depresses the brainstem. Your breathing slows. Your reflexes shut down. Your heart stops. It doesn't take long, and it doesn't take much more. But that wasn't the only thing they found. In her system was Librium, a prescription drug meant to help with alcohol withdrawal. Amy wasn't partying. She was trying to quit. There were no traces of illegal drugs, no heroin, no cocaine, not even marijuana, and yet her body gave out. So, what exactly happened? 2 days before she died, Amy saw her mother. Her speech was slurred. Her steps were unsteady. She smelled of alcohol and her hands trembled. Her bodyguard, Andrew Morris, had to help her get dressed. He washed her face, combed her hair, and carried her downstairs. Amy didn't protest. She didn't joke. She was quiet, withdrawn. On the morning of July 23rd, Morris checked on her again. She was in bed, lying on her side, appearing to sleep. He let her rest. But when he returned around 3 in the afternoon, she was in the exact same position. No movement, no response. In the bathroom, investigators found vomit in the toilet, signs of alcohol poisoning, severe enough to shut down her vital organs. There was no note, no cry for help. Only the silence of a body that had finally given up. But the autopsy revealed more than just alcohol. For years, Amy had been suffering from bulimia nervosa, an eating disorder marked by cycles of binging and purging. Some days, she would devour anything in sight. Others, she survived on candy and soda, just enough to keep from fainting. Then came the vomiting, repeated, violent, self-inflicted. It became a ritual. And it destroyed her from the inside out. Doctors know that bulimia does more than damage the stomach and teeth. It disrupts the body's electrolyte balance, especially sodium and potassium, and those 2 minerals are essential for heart function. When potassium drops too low, the heart becomes erratic, unstable, vulnerable to sudden, fatal arrhythmia. Now add alcohol, and a body already pushed to its limit. The result, a heart that simply stops trying. Some of the people closest to her, like her brother Alex and even her former stylist, believe bulimia was the real killer. Not the vodka, not the fame, but the thing that was never taken seriously enough. In public, Amy was loud, chaotic, unpredictable. Her concerts turned into train wrecks, her interviews into punchlines. The press called her a disaster, a joke, a lost cause. But behind the mess was a woman trying to survive, a woman who wrote music so raw it hurt to hear, who begged for love but feared it when it came, who spiraled because spiraling felt safer than standing still. Her voice, raspy, broken and defiant, wasn't just art. It was a warning, and we didn't listen. Dr. Cristina Romete had been treating Amy for several years. She wasn't just a doctor, she had become a witness to Amy's inner war. And when she testified after Amy's death, her words cut deeper than any headline ever could. Amy knew the risks. She knew what alcohol could do to her body. She had been told, clearly and repeatedly, that continuing to drink, especially in her fragile condition, could cause respiratory depression, cardiac failure, and death. Dr. Romete explained that Amy had been through multiple attempts to stop drinking, some successful, some not. In the months leading up to her death, Amy had even endured a full period of abstinence. No alcohol, no drugs. She had gone through the withdrawals, she had fought the cravings, and she had made it. But relapse isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet. She had started drinking again just days before she died. It wasn't a binge, it wasn't a party. It was slow, subtle, a sip to take the edge off, then another, and another, until her body couldn't take any more. There's a cruel irony in the way Amy's life ended. Because medically, she wasn't someone who had spent years drinking constantly without consequence. She had periods of sobriety, she had tried to recover, but that effort came with its own dangers. When someone stops drinking for an extended time, their tolerance drops dramatically. If they relapse and consume the same amount they used to, the body sees it as a shock. It doesn't matter what they could handle in the past. It matters what they can handle now. And Amy couldn't handle it anymore. Her liver was stressed. Her electrolytes were unstable from years of bulimia. Her nervous system was weakened by both trauma and malnutrition. And her heart, though physically unmarked, was vulnerable, exposed, and exhausted. The coroner ruled the cause of death as death by misadventure. It was the official way of saying this wasn't planned. But it wasn't an accident either. It was the result of a risky act, made by someone who had been warned, and someone who deep down understood the consequences. Amy didn't want to die, she had plans. She was preparing for a vacation to St. Lucia, a place she loved. She had spoken to friends about wanting to live near the ocean, to escape the chaos of London, and find some kind of peace. She had been writing again, not just music, but pages of ideas and lyrics. She even reconnected with friends she had pushed away during darker years. And there was someone new, a boyfriend, not a celebrity, just a man who seemed to give her moments of calm. Her father, Amy Winehouse, described seeing her happy again, playing drums, laughing, teasing him about his music. To the outside world, Amy looked like she was getting better. And maybe she was, but recovery isn't a straight line, and addiction doesn't wait for hope to grow. It just waits for one vulnerable moment, and then it takes everything. After Amy's death, the tabloids went quiet for a moment. But the damage had already been done. For years, her face had been used to sell newspapers, photos of her stumbling, of her makeup smeared, of her screaming at cameras. The public had watched her fall apart and laughed. When she missed concerts, they booed. When she disappeared from the spotlight, rumors exploded. And when she died, suddenly, tragically, everyone acted shocked. But the signs were there. Her bulimia had been visible for years. Her drinking wasn't a secret. Her loneliness screamed in every song she ever wrote. And yet she was called difficult, dramatic, unstable. In reality, Amy Winehouse was sick. She was mentally ill. She was in pain. And she was still trying to function in an industry that values image over humanity. Her final toxicology report said what her songs had been saying all along. She was overwhelmed, she was vulnerable, and she was alone. The post-mortem report was straightforward. Cause of death, alcohol poisoning. Manner of death, misadventure. Substances present, alcohol. Librium. Substances absent, all illegal drugs. Contributing factors, history of bulimia, long-term alcohol abuse. There was no trauma on her body, No evidence of self-harm, no overdose of pills, no suicide. Her heart weighed 300 grams, normal. Her lungs, slightly congested. Her liver, fatty but not cirrhotic. Her brain, normal in size and shape. Medically, she wasn't destroyed. She was tired. She had simply reached the point where her body couldn't keep going. The most haunting part of the report wasn't the alcohol level. It wasn't the vomit or the position of the body. It was that she had died hours before being found. She had been just upstairs, while people moved about downstairs, watching TV, cooking, talking. Amy had died quietly, and no one knew. Amy Winehouse didn't die because she didn't care. She died because too many others didn't. Her bulimia was dismissed, her addiction was mocked, her artistry was overshadowed by scandal. And when she tried to recover, when she sought treatment, when she wrote again, it was already too late. She once said in an interview, "My greatest fear is myself." But maybe it wasn't just herself. Maybe it was being misunderstood, being used, being watched, but never really seen. The autopsy gave us numbers, measurements, data, but behind those numbers was a woman who had begged for peace. And the truth? Amy didn't want to die at 27. She just didn't know how to keep living. Maybe if the world had listened to her lyrics as much as it listened to her meltdowns, maybe, just maybe, she'd still be here. Amy tried. Her body told us everything. We just didn't hear it in time.